There's a really weird paradox at the heart of AI right now. On one side, you've got this world-changing hype, this promise of a massive productivity revolution. But on the other side, the actual real-world data is telling a much, much quieter story. So today, we're going to dig in and untangle that paradox to find out where the true value of AI is really hiding.
I mean, the conversation around AI, it starts with these claims that are just monumental. We're being told this isn't just another piece of tech. It's a fundamental shift in humanity, on the same level as the discovery of fire or the harnessing of electricity. I mean, wow. That's the grand promise that sets the stage for a total transformation of, well, pretty much everything.
And this promise, it isn't just some abstract theory, right? It feels real. According to one huge survey, people using AI are claiming they save on average 57 minutes every single day. Now just stop and think about that for a second. That's almost 5 hours a week for every single person. When you scale that across an entire company, the potential for a productivity boom just feels absolutely enormous. And the big vision here isn't just about making the jobs we already have a little faster. The whole idea, the prevailing belief, is that AI will actually create more jobs than it gets rid of, sparking growth and innovation that will lead to completely new roles and industries. It's this vision of a future where AI just enhances our own human potential, creating this huge boom in both productivity and opportunity.
Okay, so that's the hype. It's powerful, it's incredibly optimistic, and frankly, it's everywhere. But this is where we hit a bit of a record scratch moment. When we shift away from surveys and big predictions and start looking at rigorous, real-world studies, does the actual data back up these incredible claims? This is the core of the paradox.
So for a serious reality check, let's dive into this really fascinating academic study. Researchers went into a police department to test out AI on one of the most tedious, time-consuming parts of an officer's job, writing reports. It's kind of the perfect test case, a high-stakes, real-world job where saving time should directly translate to more time out there serving the community.
All right, so here are the results. The researchers measured this thing called total factor productivity. It's basically just a fancy way of calculating how efficient each group was. And hey, at first glance, this looks like a clear win for AI, right? The AI group got a productivity gain of almost 48%, while the other group was down around 42%. So, case closed? Well, not exactly. The story is a little more complicated than these numbers let on. And this is the kicker. Even though the AI group's number was higher, the difference between the two groups was so small that it was considered statistically insignificant. So what does that mean in plain English? It means the gap was so tiny it could have just been random luck. That revolutionary leap in productivity we were all promised, the data just wasn't there. What you're seeing here is the result of a really clever kind of analysis. It's designed to cut through all the noise and pinpoint the actual cause of an outcome. And after all that rigorous work, the conclusion was crystal clear. The AI tool had no provable causal effect on productivity. This hard data is a really stark contrast to all that hype we started with. So this brings us right to the central question of this whole thing. How can people feel like they're saving an hour a day while a super-controlled experiment shows basically no impact? Why is there this massive gap between the promise of AI and the actual proof in the data? Let's try to break it down.
Okay, so what's really going on here? Well, the study suggests a few things. Part of it is just human nature. There's something called the Hawthorne effect, which means people just work harder when they know they're being watched. But here's the bigger piece. The police process was already pretty efficient. They had templates. And this uncovers a huge insight. Saving one person a few minutes here and a few minutes there doesn't just magically add up to a big win for the organization. If you don't change the system of work, all those saved minutes just disappear into thin air.
And that right there, that is the key that unlocks this entire paradox. The problem isn't necessarily that AI is ineffective or that it doesn't work. The problem is that we're often stuck measuring the completely wrong thing. We get obsessed with metrics like time saved, but that might not be where the real value is hiding at all. So, how do we find what actually matters? It really comes down to being way more deliberate and using a simple 3-step approach. First, you have to decide upfront what success even looks like. What are you trying to measure? Then you have to actually build a system to collect and analyze that specific data. And finally, you can't just set it and forget it. You have to keep monitoring and adjusting. It's about being intentional, not just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. And out of all the things you could possibly measure, maybe the most important one to focus on is business impact. This idea forces you to move beyond simple technical stuff like speed or accuracy and ask a much more powerful question. How is this tool actually contributing to our core goals? Is it helping us grow revenue?
Is it saving us money in ways we hadn't even thought about? Okay, so let's put this idea to the test. We're going to go right back to that same police study, the one that seemed to show AI had no effect. But this time, let's look at it again, not for time saved, but through this new lens of hidden business impact. And what they found? Oh, it changes everything. When the researchers calculated the real economic value of those tiny, supposedly insignificant time savings, the result was an annual benefit to the department of over $640,000. Just like that, a study that looked like a failure for AI had uncovered this massive hidden value.
So you're probably asking, where did that incredible number even come from? It came from measuring the value of what the officers could do with those little bits and pieces of time they saved. That time was reallocated back to core policing duties, more patrols on the street, more calls for service being answered. This shows us that the true value wasn't in writing reports faster. It was in freeing up officers to do more of the work that actually matters. And this whole idea becomes even more critical when you think about where AI is headed. We're moving from traditional AI, which pretty much just gives insights to help humans make decisions, to what's being called agentic AI, which can autonomously go out and execute tasks. So if an AI isn't just recommending a sales strategy, but is actually writing and sending the emails and logging them in the CRM, well, you can see why measuring its true business impact becomes absolutely critical.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? The value of AI isn't automatic. It's not some magic switch you can just flip and get instant productivity. It requires really careful planning, a willingness to reorganize how work even gets done, and most importantly, a fundamental shift in how we measure what success really looks like. And that really leaves us with one final question for you to think about. It's easy to track the simple things, like speed, but think about your own workplace. Are you measuring what's easy, or are you measuring what truly matters? How are you identifying the hidden downstream business impact of the tools you use every single day? That's the real challenge.